a dance to cheer you up. There's no need to grizzle. Just pretend to wag your tail. It's called the Izzle Sizzle. Here's a dance to cheer you up.
There's no need to grizzle.
Just pretend to wag your tail.
It's called the Izzle Sizzle.
Here's the Tweenies.
Oh, I'm feeling tickly. I hope it's a finger song. It is. It's put your finger in the air.
Oh, yeah! Put your finger in the air, in the air. Put your finger in the air, in the air. Put your finger in the air and leave it about a year. Put your finger in the air, in the air.
I'm still wiggly. Put your fingers on your head.
Put your finger on your head, on your head. Put your finger on your head, on your head. Put your finger on your head. Tell me, is it green or red? Put your finger on your head, on your head. I like finger wiggling. I want to tickle my nose. Tickle! Put your finger on your nose, on your nose. Put your finger on your nose, on your nose. Put your finger on your nose and feel the cold wind blow. Put your finger on your nose, on your nose.
Shoes this time.
Put your finger on your shoe, on your shoe. Put your finger on your shoe, on your shoe. Put your finger on your shoe and leave it a day or two. Put your finger on your shoe, on your shoe.
All together this time.
Yeah. Put your fingers all together, all together. Put your fingers all together, all together. Put your fingers all together and we'll clap for better weather. Put your fingers all together, all together. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah!
Oh, hello there. Oh, this is one of my favourite pastimes, watching the boats go up and down the River Thames. Now, the Thames is a great big river that runs through London. It starts as a trickle a long way away in the Cotswold Hills and flows all the way down, getting wider and wider until it reaches the sea. The Thames has all sorts of different boats on it. There are boats that people ride in just for fun. Oh, like that one. And there are pleasure boats that take people on sightseeing trips all along the river. Oh, there's one now. Look, they're all off on a sightseeing trip.
Sightseeing? What's sightseeing?
Oh, sightseeing is when you go to see the sights.
Oh, yeah, of course. Oh, but what are the sights?
The sight. Oh, what you see.
Oh, well, I see you. Are you a sight?
Well, I might be. Sometimes when we get home, my mum says I look a sight. But I don't think that's sightseeing, no.
Oh, of course it's not. I'll tell you what it is. Sightseeing is when you go somewhere special to look at something nice. Like a trip to a castle or the countryside. I thought everybody knew that.
Oh, well, I knew it.
So did I.
Well, I know it now.
Well, I'm glad we got that sorted out. But it's not just sightseeing boats on the River Thames. Oh, no. There's rowing boats. Oh, that looks like hard work to me. Oh, and sailing boats. And, of course, working boats, like those great big barges. They carry all sorts of different cargoes up and down the river. Oh, they do a good job. The barges are big. The barges are strong. And they carry their cargo safely along. They might carry paper, they might carry oil, they might carry birdseed, they could carry soil. They might carry steel pins, they might carry flour as they chug up the river hour after hour. No matter how heavy, no matter how large, it will all float along with the help of a barge. Oh, and barges aren't the only working boats on the Thames. There's dredgers and police boats, and there's boats of the Port of London Authority. Somehow you never think of London as a port, but it is, and a very busy one at that. And it takes a lot of looking after, and that's where the Port of London Authority come in. They make sure everything on the river runs smoothly. I bet you're wondering how I know so much about the river.
I was wondering how Max knows so much about the river.
Oh, 'cause his friend called Stan works there.
How do you know?
Well, 'cause he told me.
What? Max has got a friend who works in the river? What? Is he a fish?
No, he doesn't work in the river. He works on the river, on a boat.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Bella, do you know how Max knows so much about the river?
No.
'Cause he's got a friend called Spam who works there. I thought everyone knew that.
Well, everybody knows now. And that's another reason I like to come down here. It's to see my friend Stan. We often shout and wave to each other as he goes by. Oh, he's got a great job out in the open air all day on this lovely river. He helps to keep the river looking lovely and safe because he works on a very special boat called a driftwood barge. Oh, look! Here it comes now!
Hello, Max. Stan's on a day off. How would you like to join us?
Oh, would I? Oh, yes, this is the life, eh? Cruising down the river in a boat. In a boat on the river's the best place to be. As you cruise along, there's so much to see. There are bridges and buildings and banks either side. Yes, a boat on the river is the best way to ride. In a boat, in a boat, in a boat you can float. In a boat down the river you glide. In a boat, in a boat, in a boat you can float. In a boat is the best way to ride. Oh, some people. Hello! Some folk like buses and others like trains. Some like a bike ride and others take planes. Some like to ride in a smart motor car, but I think a boat is much better by far. In a boat, in a boat, in a boat you can float. In a boat down the river you glide. In a boat, in a boat, in a boat you can float. In a boat is the best way to ride. I like to watch all the boats going past. Some boats go slowly and others go fast. Some boats are small boats and others are large. A rowboat or a towboat or a big working barge. In a boat, in a boat, in a boat you can float. In a boat down the river you glide. In a boat, in a boat, in a boat you can float. In a boat is the best way to ride. Lovely. Now, this is no ordinary boat. It's a working boat. They call it a driftwood barge, and it goes up and down the river, collecting all the bits of wood and rubbish floating in the water. Now, at the front of the boat, there's a big metal cylinder that goes around and around, picking up any pieces of wood or floating rubbish as it goes, and scooping it into a big metal basket. And you'd be surprised at just how much driftwood there is floating around in the river. Branches off trees, old planks, bits from boats that have broken up. Who knows where it all comes from, but it seems to keep on coming. And just think, if it wasn't for boats like this one, the river would soon be full up with bits of old wood and stuff.
Yeah, but how does all that wood get into the river?
I don't know, Jakey. It just does.
Oh, yeah, but how?
Or perhaps birds drop it in.
What? What, great big lumps?
Well, there might be great big birds.
I don't think so, Milo.
Or perhaps some of it drops off boats.
Yes, and perhaps some people just chuck stuff in there.
What? I never just chuck stuff in the river. Do you, Milo?
No, of course not.
Neither do I, but somebody must do.
Fizz, do you ever just chuck stuff in the river?
Well, I did drop a lolly stick in a river once, just to see if it would float. But I promise I won't do it again.
Now, this is where they steer the boat from. And this is Roy, and he's in charge of this boat. Now, tell me, Roy, what sort of things do you find floating along the Thames?
Well, we find all sorts of things. You'd be surprised what we find, really. We've got the tyres, old tyres, tin cans, plastic bottles, great lumps of wood, rope, wire, you name it, everything's there.
Oh, and tell me, do you think you've ever picked up Fizz's lolly stick?
Well, I can't be sure, but I'll ask the boys to look out for it for you.
It's all right, Max. I don't want it back.
Now, when you're out working on the river all day, you need a place to have a little rest and a cup of tea. And here it is. It's called the cabin. And very cosy it is, too. Oh, now this will be a good place to read a book I've just got for the Tweenies. Yes, it's called Another Fine Mess. There was a knock at Fox's door. "Post!" called a squeaky voice. Fox had been out all night and his eyes were still half closed. He opened the door and a letter was thrust under his nose. "Oh, thanks," he said sleepily, and trudged back to bed. Fox switched on the lamp and snuggled down under the duvet to read the letter. "Dear nephew," it said, "I will pay you a visit at the next full moon. Sincerely, Uncle Ferdinand." Fox looked blearily at his calendar. He saw to his horror that the next full moon was tonight. "Oh, no," he wailed. "The den is a mess." Fox took out his broom and swept all round the house until he had a pile of rubbish at the front door. "Now, where shall I put it now?" he wondered. As Fox swept the rubbish along the path that ran round the hill, he noticed a hole in the ground. "Oh, this'll do just fine," he said, brushing the rubbish down the hole. Then he went back to his den to wait for Uncle Ferdinand. Badger woke suddenly. Her set was filled with the most terrible crash, as if the roof had fallen in. She jumped out of bed, and there, in the middle of the living room, was a pile of rubbish. Badger was furious. "How did that mess get here?" Badger fetched a broom and swept the rubbish out of her home, through the wood and into a deep hole. "In you go," she said, as the rubbish tumbled out of sight. The rabbit family were just about to have their salad lunch when the rubbish fell splat right on the middle of the kitchen table. They were horrified. "Yuck! What a mess!" shouted the children. "My lovely lettuce!" cried Mummy Rabbit. "Grab a brush, everyone," said Daddy Rabbit. Together, the family brushed the rubbish off the table, out of their burrow, and round the hill. They found a thick clump of grass in which to hide it, and they all went home to make another meal. Partridge finished pecking around the wood and returned to the new nest she'd built before lunch. Partridge was terribly upset to find that someone had dumped all their rubbish in her nest.
How could they?
She screeched.
Some people are just so messy.
Partridge gathered up some twigs to sweep the rubbish away from the nest. Finding a hole close by, she brushed the rubbish down the hole. This done, she went back to her nest to lay some eggs. Mole was dashing through the house when the pile of rubbish fell thump right on his head. "Oh, goodness me, whatever's that?" he said, removing a box from his snout. A few sniffs told him it was a useless pile of rubbish. "Can't have this mess in here," he said, pushing it along his tunnel under the hill. When Mole reached his front door, he shoved the rubbish outside. Then he went indoors to wash his paws. Meanwhile, all the rubbish rolled down the hill and landed with a big clatter, bang, crash right at the feet of Uncle Ferdinand, who was on his way to see Fox. "Look at that," he said to himself, and gathered up the rubbish. When he reached Fox's den, he left it outside. "Look at this rubbish I found on the road," said an irritated Uncle Ferdinand to Fox when he answered the door. "Oh, no!" wailed Fox, horrified to see his old rubbish. He was about to suggest putting it back down the hole he'd found earlier when the Mouse family passed by. "Look," exclaimed Mrs. Mouse. "Fancy anyone throwing away such wonderful treasures." "Oh, help yourself," said Fox with a sigh of relief as he led Uncle Ferdinand into his home. "I wish all my nephews were as clean and tidy as you," said Uncle Ferdinand, looking around the den. "Oh, I do my best," said Fox with a sly grin. Oh, well, that's what I call a good, clean story. Right, I'd better get on with my work. Now, a lot of the rubbish gets washed up on the banks of the river at high tide, and then when the tide goes out, it's all left there. Oh, no! Just look at all that rubbish that's been left there by the tide!
Yeah. What's the tide?
Oh, well, the tide is when the water goes up and down. It's called high tide when it's up and low tide when it's down.
When you're in the bath full of water, that's like high tide. And when you pull the plug, that's like low tide.
Oh, but when I pulled the plug out, I don't leave all that rubbish behind.
Oh, don't worry, Jake. I bet Max and the crew will soon clear it all up. We certainly will, Milo. Just watch this. Roy and the crew have a special way of collecting it. Now, you see what's happening? The engine is forcing the water up onto the bank, and all the old rubbish is being washed down into the river, where we can pick it up with our big roller and scoop it into the basket. We've picked up all the rubbish, and now it's time to empty our basket. And to do that, we've got a special crane on the boat. The crane lifts the basket over to the big collecting barges, and when they're full, they take it down to the dump sites where it's burnt. Well, I've had a smashing day here on the River Thames with Roy and the boys, and to cap it all off, they've said I can steer the boat for a bit. Oh, and they've given me a present too. Can you guess what it is? Ta-da! Yes, it's Fizz's lolly stick. They found it!
Now that's what I call a happy ending.
Well done. We've had great fun here this morning on CBeebies.
That's right, and there's still so much more to discover and do.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Are you ready?
Welcome to Treetopolis. I need your help to save the day. When you reach the last circle, the spell will work. Play games. Even practice your tree foo moves. Time for Tree Foo. And there's a brand new game, Magic Dash. Come on, join in. Tree Foo, go to bbc.co.uk/cbeebies and turn the magic on.
Love to learn.
Welcome to Discover and Do, where it's time to play the Num Tum Number Challenge game. Kerry, choose a number card.
I'm going to choose number 8.